on a fix. And we have to make that decision, I think, when the time comes. And we know it's on its last wheel. We'll see what happens. Obviously with what's going on in Hartford, and what we're trying to accomplish within the school renovation program and all that. You also have needs in other parts of the town. This town needs to go on, even though there's no money. We do need to make investments. This town needs to be protected in all facets. We need to make investments. So, other questions about the budget, the numbers?
And this one is more probably for, if Anna could just look into it. Under fuels, we have $3,000 for propane, and it showed the actual expense last year was about $1,600. Just to see where that might be tracking this year.
So that 16, I want to say, is actually the gas for the chief's vehicle, because I don't believe we made a propane purchase last year.
Okay.
And I know we just made one last week.
Okay. Okay, that just
It's
because
propane and gas for the one vehicle, right?
Yeah.
because I think this year, I mean, it's awful to say this, but just even if it's just a semblance of what the governor's proposed, it's going to be an extremely difficult year. And if there's just any place we can grab a couple $100 this year on a line or something like that. So, okay.
Yeah, where are we at? Jim, you're always good for sending me texts too. Anna, do you have the actual number for fuels for this current year, what we're trending?
So far, we've spent just under $500, and that's through, I ran the report as of today.
Okay.
However, that would not reflect the purchase that
Yeah.
he had just mentioned.
Propane bill comes in, and then we have another half a year of it riding around.
So what I think you'll see is because of the fuel being accounted for more accurately, I think you'll see fuel costs. I don't know what they're going to do, but I think you're going to see a very accurate accounting of fuel now
Sure.
with the new tank.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think maybe not this year, but definitely next year, you're going to see a very accurate number of what the chief spends on fuel, which we may or may not have known before.
Actually, because of the removal of the tanks from
The diesel tanks too.
each of the fire companies we had to give them a credit for the fuel that was taken out of their tanks. So they're going to show lower expenditures this year because of that.
Did you give us the credit or the ambulance association the credit?
It's a town credit. So in other words, we're taking that much less from their budgets.
But it's
Yeah.
but it's my understanding that fuel went in your tank. It came out of what we had and went into your tank,
Right.
and they just counted that as a credit.
I see.
Okay,
Right.
so it wasn't a loss for anybody per se?
No, I get it.
What's the propane for?
Our generator.
It's backup generator at the
Backup
station?
generator's power for the whole cooking fuel.
Cooking fuel.
Yeah, propane.
Okay.
Just a question, your air tanks, what line item covers filling your air tanks and doing their inspections?
Air is from the compressor that we have out at Station 2.
So it's all
Fills our
self-contained?
rescue truck, and we fill our bottles right from the rescue, and then between the, out of the OSHA account, us and Niantic split the bill for the maintenance for that compressor.
Thank you.
Gotta learn somewhere.
You got a proud poppy behind you who's, egging you on, and you're saying all the right things, Mr. Ricks. Good question. So, are there any other questions? As you know, and Paul, Mr. Daigle, you're kind of new coming on. We moved all our fueling stations to digital ones that every vehicle that gets fueled by the town fuel tanks has an ID number. We know exactly, the gas mileage we're getting on these vehicles, how much gas is going in them, and which department it goes to as well. So that's where Chief Lewandowski's comment about accurate reporting is going to come through, and that's going to help us all in the end. And, Mr. McGaw will be happy with that. If that's all, no other questions. I thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you for having us.
And it's usually goes that easily. Usually not much to it, right? Thanks, gentlemen. And up next is the Niantic Fire Department, and Chief Wargo is here. Welcome, Chief. This is your first budget with us.
First time, yeah.
Congratulations on
Thank you.
your appointment or your election to be chief.
Good, how are you?
Well deserved, and it's great to have a couple professionals in town here. Your budget is substantially higher, and that's because you run 2 stations, more equipment, and more, I would think, more citizens, more land mass, more units. I don't know how that all works, but obviously it's
Plus, I have 4 career guys, they have 3, so there's an additional employee there.
that alone would
That alone,
drive the
right.
cost. I'll leave this up to the commission. Any questions?
Again, Chief, and I know, just to provide an explanation, telephones go from 20, or shows an actual expense of 2,800, but we have 4,500 budgeted. Probably just an explanation, same thing with fuels, same thing in there, just an explanation of why we're maintaining the same when it shows a much lower expenditure.
Is the,
Or even, because I think that helps people understand.
Sure. Does my cell phone, that came out of that, right? The telephone account and,
I have to check, but, this year they're tracking 50% expended.
Which is where they should be about this time of year. Okay, those, that's helpful, so. Thank you.
And same with the, I have 2 stations, so there's 2 propane tanks, and we're actually getting new generators. The generator replacement project is getting underway. So we're gonna have 2 new generators, put in 2 new tanks, and all that should be in the work here probably in the springtime.
And the same thing with the uniforms. I take it similar to what?
Yeah, once again, I've got 4 full-timers, and
Right.
I believe they get $750 a year. So that's $3,000, and the remaining money, I also have 9 part-timers. It comes out to $250 a guy. So that's where I came up with the $52.50 for a number there, and we haven't really replaced uniforms or anything in quite some time, so to make everybody look professional.
All right. Those are the only questions I have.
You have a couple budgets that creep up in the middle. So maybe explain your process and how you develop these numbers, that you went
Sure.
back in and actually looked at the numbers and what's being spent and making sure certain things are coming out of the right line items. I think you went through that exercise.
Yeah. Which lines are you specifically
Well,
looking
you
at?
know, the radio maintenance goes up, it's 100%, it's only $500 to $1,000.
Right.
Building maintenance goes up $1,000, miscellaneous goes up $3,700, which kind of add up to an increase.
Sure. The radio maintenance went up to $1,000 because our portable radios are 10 years old, and the batteries only have a certain life, and they're starting to go. And the batteries are $80 a piece, so I budgeted for 10 new batteries this year, so there's about $800 right there. That explains that increase. And you said building maintenance. I've got one firehouse that's 60 years old. The other one's 43 years old. And things break and things, they're both in pretty decent shape, but just plumbing issues, some electrical issues, housekeeping things. Our cleaning supplies come out of there and things like that, so just, that's where that increase is.
Okay. Obviously, with 2 buildings and the collective age
Exactly,
over
right.
100 years.
Yeah.
You know, a $3,000 maintenance budget is actually
Ron Benson
scratch
is
our
quite a bit
heads
of help, but-
asking why you're not asking for $20,000. We appreciate you being frugal with this, but how do you do? I mean, how do you do it with $3,000? How do you keep buildings open like that?
Like I said, Ron Benson's been a lot of help for us. He takes care of a lot of things, but the last few years, the bathrooms have been redone, the kitchens have been redone. All the basic things we use every day are in pretty decent shape, so, and take care of the place every day, so it kind of
Right.
keeps itself going.
Okay. Questions?
Yeah, Mark mentioned the miscellaneous equipment, 74% increase, $3,700. What is that targeted for?
Sure. Miscellaneous equipment, I was going to replace spare fire hose, a new meter, a new saw, some salvage covers, and some other miscellaneous equipment. The last couple of years, we've had to replace pretty much all of our fire hose. any hose manufactured past 1987, you cannot, excuse me, before 1987, you cannot use. So this last year during our annual hose test, I lost quite a bit of my spare hose. So I don't have a lot left in the station. I just have enough to replace a couple of lengths of hose if they burst, not enough to redo a whole truck, but basically I have no spare hose left. And our gas meters are what we use during a carbon monoxide qual, and they also have a shelf life of probably about 10 years, and they're starting to go. We're doing an annual replacement. We'll do one a year to keep them current. And just miscellaneous equipment like salvage covers and the solver we're replacing on the rescue truck is about 30 years old. So just as things wear out, you got to replace them, and that's the increase there to $3,700.
Thank you.
Sure.
Is our uniform budget consistent between the two departments? Is it about $250 per person?
The labor contract, they're all under the same labor contract. So
Right.
the full-timers, again, Chief Wargo has 4, Flanders has 3
Three.
full-timers.
Right.
So they get a certain number.
Right.
And then the part-timers, I think you guys just
We
throw
have
them
9.
bones, you throw them T-shirts, you throw them
So it's about-
stuff to
Right. The 4
Be part of
full-timers,
the
they each
team.
get $750 a year, so that's $3,000, and I've got 9 part-timers, so I divided the difference, and I came up with about $250 a guy.
Okay,
So
that's
you
about the
figure, I
same
mean,
as the
a pair of
Flanders number?
safety shoes is about $100, and pants are about $50, and so.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure
Yeah.
we're consistent between departments. It's about $250 per the volunteers.
Yeah, so.
Other questions? You can see it's pretty straightforward, exactly. Any comments for us?
No, thanks for giving me the time.
You're very welcome. We try to be friendly here.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Chief, for
Sure.
coming in. Emergency management. Is that you, Dickie?
I thought I used to be the fire marshal.
Still? Wow, fire marshal. So you have a number of different department tabs on here. So emergency management is 224. I think we should start there. And this needs a little explanation, right? Because under the Public Safety and Fire Marshal's office also was the dispatchers
Correct.
department. It used to be within this 224 budget. And because of what we're going to be doing with the independent police in the coming months, we need to separate dispatch out. So we asked Dick and Chris Taylor to go back in and really carve it out and get very specific on, the costs. So you're going to also hear tonight a dispatch budget as well. But let's say with emergency management now, which is going to make it very difficult as you go down the line to compare numbers, as the numbers are different because we've carved out dispatch. But maybe you can give us some explanation what's going on here. Has anything changed, Dick?
Well, the only thing that has changed is cutting out
Dispatch.
dispatch.
Have
which
you
is
added any
significant.
part-time fire marshals or part-time?
I've increased that by 10 hours from what you've normally given me, for the simple fact is that this looks like a very aggressive year with building. We're looking at Gateway at 120 units. You're looking at Costco by early fall and summertime
Right.
to be going. We're dealing with the school projects and so forth. So we're pretty well hitting pretty hard. We've done about 800 inspections in 2016. Those sometimes require 1, 2 inspections, maybe 3 inspections, to revisit those properties to make sure that they found code compliance. So it's tedious work, it's labor intense because you're touching every business in town and apartment building. And we've yet to get into Gateway to redo the 285 units there. So we still have to do that in this calendar year.
Okay. Questions?
Mark, the budget line is down 17%. That's not because of is it because of the dispatch?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Because I see the big reductions are in part-time fire marshals. We're going from 112 to 49.
Well, and that was part-time dispatchers in that same line item, so
It's
now
the
they're
same item. So
separated.
that's been moved over.
That's separated now.
Okay, with the longevity probably goes with that?
Correct. But
Okay.
there's still 3 of us that get longevity on the fire marshal side and clerical.
Okay, so also training, uniforms, so all that follows the same pattern, that's just been
Correct.
moved over?
Correct. We split it the best we could to think what was fair in both venues. So when the police department takes it over, they'll have a even foot to move forward.
Okay.
If I was able to get through it for 15 years with that budget, the way the numbers worked, they certainly will be able to move forward with it with the same success.
Okay.
Anna, when you broke up the departments, you broke up the prior years too? What I'm trying to do is do an overall year-over-year comparison of where we were and where we are. Both budgets go down. Mr. Morris's budget right now goes down 17.8%. Dispatch goes down 10.4%.
Put together, right.
Put together, it's $715,000. But if I add both budgets together, last year was $836,000. So do we save money by splitting this up? Right. Right.
That's what
I
I'm
think-
saying. Oh, you know what it is, Mark? I see what it is. If you look under 320, mystical supplies, it's listed as 20,056 or 21,000. It's also listed on that, because I was trying to figure that out too. Public safety as the same amount. It wasn't broken up. It wasn't divided last year's numbers, so it's hard to compare because I think they're double counted.
What did we spend last year? Want me to go get my book?
What's your question?
In 224.
Budget's pretty well the same.
I need to tell you.
$675,447 is what was expended in the department 224 in June of 16.
625,000.
675,000.
675.
Right, 447.
Splitting it up, and with wage increases, adding, did you have the other dispatch in there? Do we, you're
Took that
adding a
out
half
last
of
year.
dispatch in, or is it out now?
No, there's a half a dispatch working now, 11 to 3, Monday through
Which
Friday.
was in last year's budget.
Correct.
Does this have 5 or still 4.5?
This has 5 dispatchers.
So we're adding a half a dispatch going full-time.
Correct.
We've gone from 675 to 715.
Yep.
All right, 25,
And that's mostly
$40,000
wages,
increase.
labor.
So it's about a 6% increase.
Right.
Your
Okay.
numbers. Yeah.
And that's because we're covering an extra shift. They're covering an extra 4 hours a day. Does that include weekends? Are you putting 5 on?
No, we've had for years, we've had two, the 7 to 3 and the 3 to 11 shifts have 2 people each on Saturdays and Sundays, make up 80 hours a week, and then you have one person 11 to 7 a.m. On Saturday and Sunday, or
So
Friday,
you have
Saturday.
5 on
Right along for years,
for years
Yeah.
on the weekends.
correct.
We have 4.5 during weekdays.
Correct. And with the increase in calls that
And
we're going to experience,
Right.
you're already at 19,000 calls per se for the police department, 460 for fire, another 1,900 for EMS. About 130,000 tasks are completed by dispatchers, whether they're calling you, calling the water department, calling me. Those are all task-related items that they're doing sitting there in the chair.
Right. Questions? No questions.
I'm good.
No, just, I mean, do those numbers from previous years add up incorrectly, or
Yeah.
from 2017? But it probably wouldn't, right, because that's the 17 budget.
Well, this all, yeah,
I mean,
it's
they'll add up
very
for 18,
difficult to
right?
compare, but what I'm taking is Anna's number of last year in the combined budget, 224, we spent 675. We approved 675, and
We expended 675 last fiscal year. And
what's budgeted this year?
this year's budget is.
I think that's what I meant to ask.
Between the two of
I'm
them?
sure I didn't ask it correctly.
Mark, between the two of them, dispatch and,
Yeah.
I added 715,396.
And that's a fifth full-time person that you did not have.
Yeah, no, that's right, that's what's in proposed, but we're living in a
this year-
budget now that,
Oh, what was,
So this year's budget was approved at $681,331.
Okay.
so 681 is the number, not 675. That was the prior year. That was the actual expense of 2016, right? 675, that was actual 2016. Adopted budget,
so an increase
we're
of
living
34K.
in right now is 681.
So is there an error? Because if you add the two actuals from 16, it comes up to 822, not 675.
That's because they're double counting the training, uniforms. Those weren't broken down.
Broken out before.
Broken up, yeah.
That was one number. So in other words, training was like $7,500. We split that. Uniforms were $3,000. They're $1,500 each now.
So the total increase is 4.99%, which includes
This-
the increase of the,
Dispatch.
This
it's
year,
an increase of
year over year.
34,000, which is probably eaten up by that.
Yeah, disregard the adopted and amended budget of 2017 print in your book. Know that we actually adopted a combined budget of $681,000. That's the 16-17 budget, the current budget we're in now that ends on June 30th. And the department head request combined is 715. Of course, we're breaking it out. 366 to fire marshal's office and 349 to dispatchers, which will come under the control of supervision of the police, a police sergeant. Combined with Dick, will still maintain responsibility of, by the way, responsibility of the technical side of things and getting all the things to work together, which he built the room. It's his expertise, and he's, quite frankly, very valuable to the town when it comes to that.
So,
Just a suggestion that we may want to
We got to
clear that up because you'll get hammered, I'm sure, by Board of Finance.
yeah,
on
right
that
now
one.
you're showing a net 27% decrease, and it's an actual 6% increase.
So
Right.
even if you
Good math,
white it
though,
out,
isn't it?
the columns, because it doesn't work on some of these columns, just white out the columns, as long as the bottom line is right and they add up correctly, that's where we gotta go.
Yeah, so if 60% goes to 1, just change that from,
Yeah.
split the 17 up the same way.
And that
But
makes
I think
sense.
most of it's gonna probably be in the part-time account.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. A little confusing, folks, I'm glad you were able to follow along. Any other questions?
Well,
Yeah.
so just for clarification, so when you do add the 215 and 224 together, it's a larger number, but that's because there are some elements that are being double counted, is that a good way to describe it? The reason-
Which column are you looking at, though?
Well, if you add the.
Yeah, don't disregard this stuff, because it wasn't done properly. Because you're right, it's 800 and something,
Right.
and really, we didn't approve 800 and something, we approved
681.
681. Okay, so that's the number. And Anna's gonna go back and fix that number in your books and
So
give us a,
we want to compare 681 then to 715, that's our.
yeah,
Yeah,
It's that
Yes.
delta, it's that difference, which is
That's the delta.
4.9.
that's the delta.
which is 4.9%,
The engineer says it's 4 point.
4.99, 5%, yeah.
I trust him.
What took so long?
All right, no, I just, so I wanted to.
No, you need to be clear on that.
Yep.
And that 4.9 also represents an increase in dispatch services. So, okay.
Which is next, right?
Other questions? Terrific. Well, that was questions on fire marshals. Are there any questions? You may want to open up your dispatch book, and while we're still waiting for Mr. Sergeant Masick to get here, he had a little bit of a delay on the street, but I think he's walking in now. Dispatch services, again, it's very, you can't compare it to the amended budget or even the actual expenses. The only real standout here would be, what would be a miscellaneous, what would be an example of a miscellaneous expense, Dick, when you're talking about?
You're running cartridges, paper,
Okay.
before that used to be all upstairs, all one item. Now you've got to take care of all that downstairs.
Okay.
You're looking at just things of that nature that are going to be constant. You're looking at IMC cost out of there, sometimes maintenance, computer, IT tech, camera work.
And we have maintenance of the IMC software.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the
which
computer
you-
programming, et cetera.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what should be noted, that IMT program is, the IMC, TriTech, is owned by the Ambulance Association, not by the town. So they need to be included in anything upgraded or anything that we're doing with that.
Mm.
So they very much have a major role in paying maintenance on that, as well as IT on that. So they, Sergeant Mason.
Currently, they do?
Yep, Sergeant Masick is, I've told him a few times that he needs to reach out to, the chiefs and Dave Cabington, the president of the Ambulance Association, and get a feel for what's going on there.
And so, for the record, for the good of the board, I am meeting with the Ambulance Association in the next couple weeks. I wasn't able to schedule anything sooner, but we were able to get together. I think it's going to be at a regular board meeting, but I think afterwards we might be able to establish a relationship, just the leadership sitting down with me and maybe the police commission, et cetera, as we
Yeah.
hammer this out, as we try to get to more than likely be a May 1st switchover date. So we're working on that. So thank you for that. Any questions on the dispatch? Again, I apologize to the board. It's a bit of a scrambled egg thing here. And when Anna, we'll clean up the paperwork, get you a cleaned up budget, and then if there are any other questions, we can get them answered for you by the department head. Okay.
Couple things.
Yep.
There's an increase in $1,800 in mystical supplies.
In what?
In MISC supplies.
Well,
If you add them together, it's 1,800 more. Is there?
And that
that's-
is in which budget?
If you
if you
combine
combine the
dispatch
budgets.
and public safety, do you have an?
That's because dispatch now has to buy all their own paper, buy all their own ink cartridges, and so forth. So that's the reason why, when we split that up.
Okay, but that's like a 9%, 8% increase.
right.
Do we anticipate that just because we're splitting the budgets?
Yeah, they use a lot of print, believe me.
But it normally came out of your budget.
Correct.
So you're going to say that at the end of the day, the same number of pieces of paper are going to be printed, the
Yes.
same number of ink is going to be used,
Yes.
right? Is that what you were going to say?
That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Could be, could not be.
Right.
In order to do it fairly, like I said, this is gonna be new to anybody, so we built it that way. Just to say, all right, maybe they're using more paper, maybe they're gonna do some new SOPs, relook at the policy manual that's there, combine that manual with what's the SOPs at the PD, and so forth. So who knows, when you start printing those books off and you're doing a couple cases of paper. Goes quick, cartridges go quick.
Also, what I think will happen too is when you're having, now whenever we get hits on warrants and stuff like that that have to be printed out, that's normally done at the barracks.
Somewhere else, yeah.
And that's all gonna have to be done here, which I can assure you, there's no such thing as a one page of anything. Especially if you do a record check, and it needs to be printed out, you're talking probably 10 or 12 pages in some cases, when now we don't do it at all.
We also have to buy a sealed file cabinet to keep the warrants in. We didn't have to do that before, so that's a new item that we have to buy.
Okay. On similar thing, I noticed there's a reduction though in training from 10,231 to about 7,231. If you combine both of them, do we anticipate there's less training than we've had in the past?
You're looking at training in a different aspect now. You're looking at EMD training, which is the medical side of it, runs about $110 per dispatcher. And then you're also looking at recertification in Colette, that has to be done on a yearly basis, so you're paying backfill sometimes, and you're also then paying that individual to go take the program.
But do you anticipate, but the budget's going down for that, for both of them? We
We feel-
anticipate that's the case.
That's the case. We
Accurate
figure
number.
accurately those.
It accurately
numbers.
depicts, okay. And then the dispatcher line, so we're increasing hours for part-time dispatchers, Mark? You said by 4 or something? But the regular dispatch line goes up 6.64?
No, you're gonna, we have a person sitting now
Hmm?
at 4 hours per day. That's going to go away and turn into an 8-hour day.
Got it, and that's where the 6.64
That's
is.
where the bump is.
Got it, okay. Thanks for clarification.
What you don't see in this budget, and nor will you see in any other department head budget, is the cost of benefits. The cost of that full-timer now, it's a part-timer, it's gonna go to full-time, so there's the health insurance, the workman's comp increase, the liability increases, and all that stuff. A $20,000 estimated at $20,000 package shows up in a different budget. And we'll get to that before the end of the process. And that's something we consider when we're going part-time. We've had some requests in this building for part-timers to become full-timers, but it's not just the extra 4 hours, it's that big,
Everything else that
Nugget.
goes with it.
yeah.
Excuse me, I see what you're saying is that isn't always reflected. in
That's
the-
not reflected in this
Shows up
budget.
somewhere
Yeah,
else.
yeah.
Right.
And that drives the cost of the general government line. And contingency and wages and whatever else you call it, one of those departments. Any other questions for Mr. Morris? Sir, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
As always, you had a busy weekend. Continue. We're going to call a recess and come back in about 5 minutes.
Thank you.